My son's first gallery opening was supposed to be the proudest night of my life until my mother grabbed a box cutter and slashed through his largest painting, the one he'd spent 8 months creating. It wasn't just canvas and oil. It was the centerpiece of his senior thesis, the piece that had already caught the attention of 2 major collectors. I'd watched him work on it every weekend in our garage-turned-studio, mixing colors at 2 a.m., repainting sections he wasn't satisfied with, pouring everything he had into those 6 feet of raw emotion. The gallery was packed. Local press, his professors, art students, and family. Lucas stood next to his piece, this massive abstract landscape he called Reconstruction, answering questions from a journalist. His hands were shaking slightly, the way they always did when he was nervous but trying to hide it. He was 22, graduating with honors, and this was his moment. I stood in the corner with a glass of cheap wine, just watching him glow. Then my mother arrived. Late, as always. But she wasn't alone. My brother Derek was with her, looking uncomfortable in a wrinkled button-down. He's 34, still living in mom's basement, still talking about the graphic design business he's going to start someday. I felt my stomach drop. I'd specifically told her not to bring him. This was Lucas's night. She walked straight to the painting, studied it for maybe 10 seconds, then turned to Lucas with that smile, the one that's never actually reached her eyes. "This is beautiful, sweetheart. Derek's been looking for something exactly like this for his new office space. When he finally gets his business going, this would be perfect for the lobby." Lucas blinked. "Grandma, this piece is part of the exhibition. It's not for sale yet, and even when it is—" "Oh, don't be silly," she interrupted, waving her hand. "Family helps family. Derek needs this more than some stranger who'll just hang it in a hallway and forget about it. You can always paint another one, can't you?" I stepped forward. "Mom, we talked about this. Tonight is about Lucas and his achievement. Derek doesn't even have an office." She turned on me, and I saw it, that flash of anger she gets when anyone challenges her. "You've always favored that boy over your own brother. Derek has been struggling, and you throw money at art supplies while he can't even afford proper business cards." Lucas's voice was quiet but firm. "I'm not giving you the painting, Grandma." The gallery went silent. You could hear the air conditioning humming. My mother's face went red, that deep crimson that meant she was about to lose it. She'd had a glass of wine, maybe 2, on the drive over. I could smell it. "You ungrateful little brat," she hissed. "After everything I've done for this family, this is how you repay me?" Before I could react, she reached into her purse and pulled out a box cutter. I thought she was bluffing, trying to scare him. But then she extended the blade and in one swift motion, slashed it across the canvas. The sound was horrible, like fabric tearing, but worse. She dragged it down, then across, making an X right through the center of the piece Lucas had poured his soul into. Lucas made a sound I'd never heard before, somewhere between a gasp and a sob. The journalist dropped her recorder. Someone screamed. I lunged forward and grabbed my mother's wrist, but the damage was done. The painting hung there, mutilated, 8 months of work destroyed in 5 seconds. "There," my mother said, breathing hard. "If Derek can't have it, nobody can. Maybe next time you'll think about family first." Derek just stood there, pale and silent. Security was already moving toward us. I pulled Lucas away from the painting, his whole body trembling. The gallery owner was on the phone, probably calling the police. My mother smoothed her jacket like nothing had happened and walked toward the exit. "I'll be in the car, Derek," she called over her shoulder. I drove Lucas home in silence. He sat in the passenger seat, staring at his hands. They were paint-stained, always were. The hands of an artist. He'd been working since he was 14, after his mom, my ex-wife, passed away from cancer. Art was his therapy, his way of processing grief. And my mother had just destroyed 8 months of that healing in front of everyone who mattered to his career. "I can't fix it," he finally said. His voice was hollow. "The show opens officially tomorrow." That was the centerpiece. The collectors were interested in that specific piece. "I know," I said. "I'm so sorry, Lucas. I should have never let her near you tonight." He shook his head. "It's not your fault, Dad. It's hers. And I don't want her at the house anymore. I don't want her anywhere near me." I nodded. I couldn't argue. My phone was already blowing up with texts from my mother. Dozens of them. First claiming she'd just been trying to help Derek see reason. Then saying Lucas was disrespectful and needed to learn about sacrifice. Then accusing me of turning my son against his own grandmother. I didn't reply to any of them. The next morning, I called my insurance agent. He listened to the story, let out a long breath, and said the words I'd been dreading. "This won't be covered under your homeowner's policy because it wasn't your home, and it's intentional damage by a family member. You'd need to press charges for vandalism, And even then, recovering the value is complicated. Art is subjective. I asked him to send me the paperwork anyway. Then I called the police and gave them the full statement. The gallery had security footage. Multiple witnesses. This wasn't ambiguous. But then my phone rang. Unknown number. Is this Marcus? Yes. Who's this? This is Robert Chen. I'm your mother's brother. I was at the gallery last night. I froze. Uncle Robert. I hadn't seen him in almost 15 years. He and my mother had some falling out before Lucas was even born, something about money and property. He'd moved to Seattle, made a fortune in tech, and basically disappeared from family events. I saw what she did, he said. His voice was calm, measured. To your son's painting. I'd like to meet with you and Lucas. Today, if possible. I'm still in town. We met him at a coffee shop in downtown Portland. Uncle Robert looked older, grayer, but sharp. He wore an expensive watch and carried himself like someone who'd spent decades in boardrooms. He shook Lucas's hand first, held it. I'm sorry about last night, he said. What your grandmother did was unforgivable. But I want you to know something. I've been following your work online. Your professor posts about his students. You're talented, Lucas. Really talented. Lucas blinked, clearly not expecting this. Robert turned to me. Marcus, I need to tell you something about the house your mother lives in. The one she and Derek share. What about it? She doesn't own it. I do. The words hung there. I stared at him. What? When our parents died, they left the house to both of us, 50-50. Your mother was going through a divorce, struggling financially. I bought out her half, paid her $200,000 in 1998. She was supposed to use that money to get her own place, but she gambled most of it away and spent the rest within 3 years. When she came back begging, I felt guilty. So I let her live there rent-free. I've been paying the property taxes, maintenance, everything, for 26 years. I couldn't speak. My mother had always told everyone she owned that house outright, that it was her inheritance. Her security. She doesn't know I was at the gallery last night, Robert continued. I came because Lucas's professor mentioned his show at a conference I attended. I wanted to see my great-nephew's work. And instead, I watched my sister destroy it because she spent her entire life enabling your brother and punishing anyone who doesn't go along with it. He slid an envelope across the table. This is a copy of the deed. And this is a notice of eviction. 30 days. I'm done subsidizing her behavior. Lucas looked at me, eyes wide. I looked at Robert. Are you serious? Completely. But there's more. He pulled out another document. I've been setting aside money for years. Originally, it was going to be split between Derek and Lucas when I died. But after watching Derek stand there last night and say nothing while his mother destroyed your son's work, I've changed my mind. He pushed the document toward Lucas. This is a trust account. $180,000. It's yours. For art school, for supplies, for studio space, for whatever you need to build your career. The only condition is that you can't give any of it to your grandmother or uncle. Lucas's hands were shaking as he picked up the paper. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Because, Robert said simply, I watched talent get crushed by entitlement in my own family for too long. Your grandmother destroyed your painting because she couldn't stand seeing you succeed when Derek's been failing for a decade. I won't let her destroy your future too. That afternoon, we met with Robert's lawyer. The eviction notice was filed. Everything was legal, airtight. My mother had no claim to the property, never had. She'd been living on Robert's charity, and that charity had just run out. By Friday, the notice was delivered. I wasn't there, but Derek called me 12 times in an hour. I finally answered. Dad's losing his mind, he said. Wait, I mean Mom. She's screaming that Uncle Robert can't do this, that the house is hers, that you turned him against her. The house was never hers, Derek. She lied to all of us. There was a long pause. I didn't know about the painting, he said quietly. I mean, I knew she was mad, but I didn't think she'd actually do it. I should have stopped her. Yeah, I said. You should have. What's going to happen to us? I don't know, Derek. That's not my problem anymore. Meanwhile, Lucas's professor had rallied the art community. The story of what happened spread across social media. Not because we wanted it to, but because other students were there, had posted about it. The destroyed painting became a symbol. The gallery decided to display it anyway, damaged, with a placard explaining what happened. They called it Reconstruction, Deconstructed. The two collectors who'd been interested? They still wanted to buy it. For more than the original asking price, one of them said the slash marks added a layer of meaning, a visible scar of family trauma and survival. Lucas cried when he heard that. But this time, they were different tiers. Uncle Robert helped us file the police report properly. My mother was charged with criminal mischief and destruction of property. The estimated value, with the collector interest factored in, was over $15,000. That made it a felony. She called me exactly once after the charges were filed. "You're really doing this? Sending your own mother to jail? You destroyed something precious because you couldn't control Lucas. Actions have consequences, Mom." I was trying to teach him about family loyalty. "No," I said. "You were trying to punish him for having boundaries. There's a difference." She hung up. The eviction moved forward. 30 days came and went. My mother and Derek found a 2-bedroom apartment across town. Robert sold the house, donated half the proceeds to an art scholarship fund at Lucas's university, and gave the other half to Lucas's trust. But Robert wasn't done. 3 months later, he called us to a meeting at his lawyer's office. Lucas had just started his MFA program, fully funded by the trust. He was thriving, creating new work. Even got approached by a gallery in New York. Robert slid another document across the table. "This is my will. I'm 71, Marcus. Not getting any younger. I wanted you both to know what I've decided." The document outlined everything. The bulk of Robert's estate, including his property in Seattle and his investment portfolio, would go to Lucas. A smaller portion would fund the scholarship at the university. My mother and Derek were explicitly excluded, with a clause explaining why. "Robert, this is too much," I started. But he held up his hand. "It's not charity, Marcus. It's investment. I've watched Lucas's work. I've seen his dedication. He reminds me of myself at that age, before I let family obligations crush my own dreams. I wanted to be a photographer. Did you know that?" I shook my head. "Your grandmother, my mother, said it was a waste of time. Said I needed to focus on business, on supporting the family. So I did. I was successful, made money, but I gave up something I loved. I won't let that happen to Lucas." He turned to Lucas. "There's one more thing. The house I sold, your grandmother's old house. The nonprofit that bought it is converting it into studio space for emerging artists. Free residencies, supplies included, for young people who can't afford traditional programs. They're naming it the Lucas Morrison Arts House." Lucas couldn't speak. He just stared at Robert, tears streaming down his face. "Your grandmother tried to erase your work," Robert said gently. "I'm making sure your name builds something permanent instead." Lucas stood up, walked around the table, and hugged Robert. I'd never seen my uncle cry before, but I saw it then. My mother tried to contest the will before Robert even died, claiming undue influence, diminished capacity, all the usual tactics. It went nowhere. Robert's lawyers had documented everything, including the gallery incident, the police reports, the years of financial support she'd squandered. She stopped speaking to me entirely. Derek reached out once, asked if there was any way Lucas could help him with startup money for his business. Lucas said no. I was proud of him for that. Last month, Lucas had his first solo exhibition in New York. 3 pieces sold opening night. He's being represented by a major gallery now. Uncle Robert flew out for it, even though traveling is hard for him these days. The damaged painting, reconstruction, deconstructed, hangs in Robert's Seattle home. He said it reminds him that broken things can still have value, sometimes more than they did before. I stood with Robert at the New York opening, watching Lucas talk to collectors and critics with confidence I'd never seen in him before. Robert leaned over and said quietly, "Your mother called me last week, said I was destroying the family." "What'd you say?" I told her I wasn't destroying anything. I was ending a cycle. There's a difference. Lucas caught my eye from across the room and smiled, the kind of smile that reaches all the way to your eyes, the kind that says everything is exactly where it should be. My mother never apologized. Not to Lucas, not to me, not to Robert. She tells relatives we abandoned her, that we chose money over family. Some of them believe her. Most don't. Derek is working at a call center now. I heard he's actually showing up on time, keeping the job. Maybe hitting rock bottom was what he needed. I hope so. But it's not my responsibility to save him anymore. Robert is teaching Lucas about investments, helping him build security for the long term. They meet for lunch every Sunday when Robert's in town. Lucas calls him Grandpa. Robert pretends it bothers him, but I can tell he loves it. Last weekend, Lucas brought home a new painting. Smaller than the one my mother destroyed, but powerful. It's called The Architect. It's a portrait, abstract but recognizable. An old man with kind eyes and steady hands, building something that will last. "It's for Uncle Robert," Lucas said. "For his birthday." I looked at the painting, at the care my son had put into every brushstroke, and I understood something I hadn't before. My mother didn't just destroy a painting that night. She revealed who she really was. And in doing so, she made room for someone else to step in. Someone who saw potential instead of obligation. Someone who chose to build instead of tear down. Robert died 6 months after that New York opening. Peaceful, in his sleep. He'd been sick for a while, but he'd fought to see Lucas succeed first. The funeral was small. My mother didn't come. She told relatives she wasn't welcome, which was true, but not for the reasons she implied. Lucas spoke at the service. He talked about second chances, about finding family in unexpected places, about an uncle who showed him that you don't have to accept the cycle you were born into. You can end it. You can build something different. The Lucas Morrison Arts House opened its first residency program 2 months later. 15 emerging artists, full scholarships, free studio space for a year. Lucas teaches a workshop there every month. He says it's his way of paying forward what Robert gave him. I drive past my mother's apartment sometimes. I don't stop. She made her choices. She chose Derek's comfort over Lucas's dreams. She chose control over connection. And when she couldn't have control, she chose destruction. But standing in that arts house, watching young painters and sculptors work in the space that used to echo with my mother's bitterness, I see what Robert saw. Broken things can be rebuilt. Cycles can be ended. And sometimes, the family you choose is stronger than the family you're born into. Lucas still has the damaged painting in storage. He says someday he might restore it, but not yet. Right now, the slashes remind him of something important, that surviving an attack doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means carrying the scars and building something beautiful anyway. Last week, a major museum reached out about including reconstruction, deconstructed in an exhibition about art and trauma. Lucas said yes. The piece that my mother tried to destroy will be seen by thousands, will be studied, will mean something to people she'll never meet. She wanted to erase his work because she couldn't control him. Instead, she made it unforgettable. She wanted to teach him about sacrifice. Instead, Robert taught him about boundaries. She wanted to prove family comes first. Instead, she proved that not all family deserves first place. I haven't spoken to my mother in 2 years. I don't hate her. I just don't have room for her anymore. My life is full of Lucas's openings, of Sunday dinners with cousins who actually show up, of watching my son become the man Robert believed he could be. Derek sent me a message last month. He's engaged, apparently. Getting married to someone who doesn't know our family history. He wanted to know if Lucas would paint something for the wedding. I showed Lucas the message. He read it, handed back my phone, and said simply, no. I didn't argue, because here's what I learned from all of this. You can't save people who don't want to be saved. You can't fix people who think they're already perfect. And you can't build a future if you're constantly being dragged back into someone else's dysfunction. Robert knew that. He spent decades away from my mother, building his own life, his own success. And when he finally stepped back in, it wasn't to rescue her. It was to protect Lucas. To give a talented kid the chance Robert himself never got. My mother calls that betrayal. I call it wisdom. Tonight, I'm sitting in Lucas's new studio, the one he rented with money from his gallery sales. He's working on a commission, something for a tech company's headquarters. The space smells like oil paint and turpentine, familiar and comforting. Dad, he says, not looking up from his canvas. Do you ever regret cutting Grandma off? I think about it. Really think about it. No, I say finally. I regret not doing it sooner. He nods, adds a stroke of crimson. Uncle Robert told me once that the hardest thing he ever did was walk away from his family. But he said it was also the thing that saved his life. He was right. Yeah, Lucas says quietly, he usually was. The painting he's working on is beautiful, full of color and movement and life. Nothing like the dark, heavy pieces he made right after the gallery incident. He's moved past that, not forgotten it but integrated it. The way Robert said he would. My phone buzzes. A text from my mother's number, first time in months. I heard about the museum exhibition. I deserve credit for that painting story. Without me, it would just be another pretty picture. I read it twice. Then I delete it. I don't block her, I just delete the message and put my phone away. Because she's wrong. The painting would have been beautiful and meaningful with or without her violence. What she did didn't create its value. It just revealed her own emptiness. Lucas will never give her credit. Neither will I. Neither would Robert. Some people spend their whole lives tearing down what others build, then demanding gratitude for the rubble. My mother is one of those people. But Lucas isn't building in her shadow anymore. He's building in the light Robert left behind. And that light, it turns out, is more than enough.